Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Cobern, and today's episode we're doing a listener request from Blasphemous HDTV 3M. Can you do Landon Collins? And yeah, I think we can do Landon Collins. Landon Collins, of course, the safety from the New York Giants, was drafted out of Alabama. He's a very interesting prospect. Of course, had a very big year last year. In terms of production, has been a very productive player in the NFL, and he was someone that fell in the draft. He was kind of hyped to be a first-round pick for a while, and then ultimately fell to day two. And there was a lot of questions as to why that happened and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, we're going to look at him in terms of his analytics, and the analytics I'm going to be discussing today. Things like defensive market share and athleticism data. I'm going to leave the terms in the description, so if you're not familiar with any of the stuff that I'm talking about when it comes to market share data or athleticism data, definitions for the terms I'm talking about are going to be in the description, which pretty simply just kind of explains what those terms are. And also you can watch any of my past videos as well, like my earlier videos. If I covered a safety or if I covered a cornerback or any sort of defensive position, I pretty much talk about exactly what all the ins and outs of those types of data is, on top of me just talking about them in general on this show. So again, if you're not familiar with the terms, just check the description. And with that out of the way, let's get to Landon Collins in terms of what his analytics looked like coming out of college. What were some of the pros, what were some of the cons, and of course look at what his production has been at the NFL level so far. So starting with Landon Collins, when it comes to his production data, now this is his production data compared to strong safeties, because based on his height and weight and his size, I mean he just looks like a strong safety. Now free safety, strong safety is a very sort of ambiguous term. The only thing I can really say is strong safeties typically perform a lot better when it comes to things like solo tackle market share, whereas free safeties perform a lot better when it comes to pass deflection market share. That's the only delineation between free safeties and strong safeties when it comes to data, is that sort of fact, because strong safeties usually are closer to the line of scrimmage, while free safeties are a little bit farther, and as a result, free safeties typically have more opportunities to make plays on the ball versus strong safeties. But when it comes to Landon Collins' data, he had an 87.08 solo tackle market share production score. That hit at least the Pro Bowl threshold when it comes to strong safety market share data, when it comes to just his production. He also had an 80.71 interception market share score. That hits at least the Pro Bowl threshold as well. And then his pass deflection market share was a 73.52 out of 100, which also hits the Pro Bowl threshold as well, which you can see the bottom end thresholds in terms of All-Pro and Pro Bowl at the strong safety position. So he was a very productive back. He basically had Pro Bowl level production. He was very close to the All-Pro levels of production when it comes to his interception and pass deflection market share. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect him to, kind of meet those sort of standards when it comes to his data. His solo tackle market share was the only thing that was kind of way off from the All-Pro threshold. And the All-Pro threshold for solo tackle market share is, again, based on All-Pro strong safety types. And particularly Troy Polamalu is like a big example of that. He was someone who had a tremendous amount of solo tackle market share. Eric Berry's another guy that's kind of like this as well, who had that high-end solo tackle market share. So they're like everywhere. When people talk about Troy Polamalu being everywhere, that's what they mean, is the solo tackle market share usually is high because they are everywhere. And Landon Collins didn't quite hit that level at college, but it still was pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty decent level to hit, 87.08. So there was really nothing in his production that was worrisome when it comes to Landon Collins. When it comes to his athleticism, this is actually where most of the question marks showed up. He had a 93.43 explosive lower body strength score, a 96.64 speed score, and a 66.63 flexibility score. Based on my data that goes back to the 1999 NFL draft class, there's never been a multiple All-Pro and multiple Pro Bowl strong safety with a 66.63 flexibility score. But it wouldn't be surprising if that threshold was a little bit lower, at least compensating for Landon Collins. So in a way, I kind of hope that Landon Collins can kind of break the flexibility barrier, I guess. Because most of these strong safety types that had this amazing sort of flexibility testing, there was a lot of them, but it seems a little odd that all the All-Pro and all the Pro Bowl guys are at the same level of flexibility. So I guess all I'm trying to say is that when it comes to Landon Collins' case, I kind of hope that maybe this will drop that Pro Bowl threshold down to 66.63, which seems reasonable for me, that would be a good spot for a Pro Bowl safety, at least a Pro Bowl strong safety, because typically speaking, strong safeties are explosion speed athletes who have kind of flexibility. That's kind of what they are on paper, usually. And in many ways, Landon Collins looks a lot more like LaRon Landry than Eric Berry or any of those other sorts of guys, just in terms of flexibility testing. So, long story short, Landon Collins has fine athleticism. He didn't quite hit the Pro Bowl bottom end threshold for Pro Bowl strong safeties because he only had a 66.63 score. But I would not be surprised if he ends up being a multiple Pro Bowl guy in his career. And if he does, then that will definitely drop that Pro Bowl threshold down if he does that. But when it comes to All-Pro potential, I would say that's a little less likely because of his production coming out and also because of his athleticism testing. So I would say more likely Landon Collins will end up hitting the heights of multiple Pro Bowl types than multiple All-Pro types. And again, multiple All-Pro types are these elite freak guys, they don't, Sean Taylor is another example of a guy. Of course, he didn't reach all the sort of thresholds, but he pretty much hit every single thing in terms of athleticism testing and production testing, and did really well in his first couple years in the NFL. And is also kind of a legend at the position. When people talk about strong safety, they talk about Sean Taylor. But most of those guys were great all-around athletes with great all-around production. I'm not trying to diss Landon Collins. I'm not trying to say, oh, he's going to suck. I'm just saying that I would think it would be less likely for him to keep up consistent production in the future. If he does, then good on him. I just think that based on his data, he looks more like a multiple Pro Bowl type than a multiple All-Pro type based on his production, based on his athleticism testing at this point. And then we get to his actual NFL production. In the NFL, he's been amazing. He's been very good up to this point. In his rookie season, he had an amazing rookie season. Had a 99.07 solo tackle market share score, 56.14 interception market share score, and a 93.60 pass deflection market share score, giving him a total impact score of 91.33 out of 100, which is essentially like top 10 safety production. In 2016, however, he had a 99.92 solo tackle market share score, 97.81 interception market share score, and 96.80 pass deflection market share score, giving him a grand total impact of 99.83 out of 100. And last year in particular, Landon Collins was by far the most impactful strong safety in the NFL, or any safety really. He was the most impactful safety out of every safety in the NFL last year in particular, which is a very big accomplishment because he's a very good player in terms of his production. He has very good athleticism traits. It's just that his flexibility was, the only sort of negative coming out of college. That was the only sort of issue. That might have been the issue why he fell to day two, was because of that sort of issue. But what as seen here, and as what is seen usually with these types of athletes, LaRon Landry is another one of these guys, is, they may not have the flexibility, but they are able to be very productive. early in their career because of these sort of advantages of having explosiveness and speed. So I think Landon Collins is definitely an interesting case to follow in the future. I think there's a lot of positives in terms of his testing to point towards lots of success in terms of explosiveness and speed, and also his production. Lots of positives to point towards there as well. I just think in general, he's performing really well right now, and it's just going to be kind of interesting to see where he goes in the future based on his data. So in conclusion, Landon Collins in many ways is the type of safety that maybe the statistical model needs, because I think when it comes to strong safeties, there's been such a high threshold when it comes to them since 1999 that it's kind of like there's really no delineation between All-Pro and Pro Bowl types. And it's kind of refreshing to have finally a case to point to where that standard can be lowered a bit to make it a little bit more even in terms of the delineation between All-Pro and Pro Bowl sort of stuff. On top of the fact that Landon Collins may go on to be a multiple All-Pro type of production safety as well. It's a little bit less likely due to his production and his overall athleticism traits compared to those multiple All-Pro types, but it wouldn't be surprising considering how he's producing thus far. Because in many ways, most people they only really care about what they're doing in the NFL right now, and Landon Collins is coming off of the best impact season of a safety in general from last year. So he's definitely producing at a high level, and it's just a matter to see where the rest of his career goes, what other accolades he collects along the way, how does he produce going forward. These are going to be very interesting questions to answer, and just to sort of test the sort of flexibility standards a bit, because everybody kind of talks about flexibility. I personally think flexibility is much more important at free safety positions than strong safety positions. But Landon Collins is definitely going to be able to kind of test this out and see where it goes when it comes to his testing and his athleticism traits, because so far, again, he's been a very impactful player, and it's just going to be interesting to see where he goes in the future because of how much of a good start he's had to his career. So again, my name is James Cobern. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.